Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting for the Lynn Haven City Commission. At this time, if you would you please stand for the invocation? Father God, we thank you for the opportunity that we may meet in a democracy and come forward with all of our own beliefs, our opinions, and our statements of how this city's business should be run. We thank you for the freedom to come and meet together and to have civil discourse about the different aspects of our city government. Please allow this meeting to be one that's filled with a spirit of community, a spirit of looking to the future, and a spirit of working together to make sure that Lynn Haven continues to be the bright and shining star of Bay County that it's always been. In this perfect, holy name we ask. Amen. You may be seated. If you will please allow me to forego the Pledge of Allegiance today, not out of a lack of patriotism, but because there's not a flag available, and the proper decorum is not to say it if the flag is not here. So I'll just say, God bless America. How about that? Thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda was the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Before I go, item number 3 is the mayor's report. I would like to express our thank yous once again to Lynn Haven Elementary School for accommodating us during this time when we don't have a regular meeting room to work in. John Cannon, who is the principal, is out of town because it is spring vacation today, but he still made sure that we were able to get in, and I'd like to thank Pastor Daniel at the First Baptist Church also for accommodating us with keys and helping us to make the meeting possible today. With that said, most of you know me well enough to know that I generally speak from the heart and off the cuff, and I don't read prepared statements, but once again, we are in an unusual situation, and so I would like to make sure that my words are exactly the way that I would like them to be, so please indulge me as I read this statement to you. Lynn Haven has faced some of its darkest and most challenging days in the aftermath of Hurricane Michael, yet we were strongest in those days when we were of one accord, when we reached out to those who needed help and found strength as we worked together first in survival and recovery and now in rebuilding. Today we face a challenge of a different nature, and as difficult as it may be, it is important to recognize that there are legal processes of an active police investigation to be completed, and we must exercise caution and prudence in our decision making. On Sunday, May 17th, during the special meeting called by this mayor at 5 p.m., I propose that the commission allow me to execute the daily functions of the city manager for 7 to 10 days in the same capacity in which I served during the weeks following Hurricane Michael until an interim city manager could be agreed upon. That proposal was rejected by Commissioners Barnes, Friend, and Russell. Therefore, during the 48-hour period since our last meeting, the special meeting, I have reached out to the League of Cities, the Florida Board of Mayors, of which I am one of the 27 board members, and I spoke to my friend and colleague, as well as president of that board, Mayor Matt Surrency of Hawthorne, Florida, where he has been mayor for over 28 years, for his advice and his counsel. After listening to his advice regarding the chain of command in a situation like this one, we both agreed that Lynn Haven's deputy city clerk is the appropriate choice for a temporary acting city manager because our charter in Lynn Haven also recognizes the city manager with the title of city clerk. I would like to recommend that our deputy city clerk, Vicki Gaynor, be nominated to temporarily execute some of the day-to-day functions of the city manager. This would include managing the day-to-day operations of the city, signing checks which have already been approved by the commission or within Lynn Haven policy, bringing the issues, concerns, and job tasks of the department heads to the city commission, making herself aware of the task which this commission has directed its staff to pursue such that she could advise this commission, advising the commissions on city matters, and acting as city manager at all city commission meetings. Any matters which would involve encumbering the city financially, the hiring and firing of personnel, and other similarly related matters would not be within the purview of this temporary placement. Mrs. Vicki Gaynor is well respected within our community, and I believed that she would be the right person at this time to assist the commission to ensure smooth operation of the city of Lynn Haven and to articulate any needs the department heads may have from this commission until this board makes a decision regarding the city manager position. I do hope that in the spirit of cooperation to move us forward to do the daily business of this city, that you, my fellow council members, will support this proposal with a motion at this time to approve this proposal of mine.
So move.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your comments and going into great detail, so I won't do that, but I will say that after meeting with Ms. Gaynor, I draw this exact same conclusion. So thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I also have reached out to all the department heads, discussed it with them, as well as seeking counsel from outside the city, and come to the same conclusion. So I think this is the appropriate action.
Are there other comments from the council?
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, Commissioner Tender.
I totally agree too that Ms. Gaynor is the appropriate person to keep our city running. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would reiterate, I hear the different comments that have been made that my fellow commissioners have reached out to Mrs. Gaynor, but I do want to say to you that I have not discussed this with any of the commission members. I have discussed it with Ms. Gaynor and I have discussed it with the city attorney, but I have not been in any discussion with anyone on this panel about that until this moment. So I wanted to make that very clear. I did not, there is a public commentary coming up on item number 7, but I do not want to progress from this point because of the fact that we have always been a city where the public has access and is able to discuss their feelings about something. So at this point in time, I would like to offer the public an opportunity to speak on this proposal that I've made, and we've had a motion and a second, we're ready to vote. But I would ask that unless you are really against this, that for the purpose of, we've got a long agenda today, so if you are in concurrence that this would be the right thing, there's no need to comment at this time. There's public commentary coming up and you could include it then. But if someone has some reason that you would not want this to be the direction we go, I would offer you that opportunity to speak now. And I see no objection. Mr. Albritton, our city council, legal counsel, will now call the roll.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And I would like to thank each of you for agreeing to this and moving the city forward. Most of all, Ms. Gaynor, I'd like to thank you for your willingness to do this, and I know that you will do a fantastic job in keeping us on the right path. I also would like to thank all of the city department heads for your spirit of cooperation and understanding that from this point on until we decide about a city manager, whatever that decision may be, that you are free to approach not only Ms. Gaynor, but any member of this council or this mayor with any concerns that you may have, and we will be there to help you. So thank you so much for all that you do to keep this city moving the way it should be moving. Okay, moving on then to item number 5, item number 4. This will be the commissioner's report, and I would start with Commissioner Tender. Do you have a report, Commissioner Tender?
Yes, Mayor, I do.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. I had things that I had wanted to speak about that I have dealt with, and then of course when everything fell apart, I couldn't even tell you what they are now. I know that I'm still dealing with situation on Colorado Avenue, and I went to the director's meeting Monday morning, and I spoke with Bobby Baker regarding the situation. We are in an unusual situation right now. 2 weeks ago, I did speak with the city manager about the Colorado project, and he told me it was funded, it's already been awarded to Phoenix, and that it would begin as soon as the debris pickup had ended, so that the congestion of traffic wouldn't be so terrible on that street. When speaking with Mr. Baker Monday morning, he said that as far as he knew, it was still on hold and was not funded. So if anybody is here for that issue, I have been trying to keep them very posted on what's going on. I guess it's just going to be up in the air for the time being until we can get to the bottom of where we really are with it. So that's basically all I've been working with is Colorado Avenue. In light of, and I don't want anybody to take this personally, for sure, but in light of everything that's come out in the last few days, I have real concern, not only, of course, with the city manager, but with Commissioner Russell as well as Chief Ramey, just because of the involvement in the situation. And at this point, that is all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. Commissioner Russell?
Thank you, Mayor. I had a rather lengthy report to talk to you about tonight, predominantly about the task force meeting that I attended. But obviously, with everything that's on this agenda, I'm going to cut it awful short. With all the concerns that the task force has going forward, the Bay County Recovery Task Force, the thing that sticks out to me the most is the mental health issue that most people are covering up and not talking about. And I'm hoping that that gets out and there's some more notice about it. Since December, there's been 62 children Baker acted in our school system. And if you're not aware of what that means they were taken into custody because they were afraid they were going to hurt themselves or hurt another. That's an exponential amount of people that have been taken into custody. To make matters worse, Life Services is currently over capacity. So these children that are Baker acted are having to be hauled to different counties to be housed. This is unacceptable to me, and I don't know how to address it in the future, but that to me is the number one concern for Bay County right now. To me, it's not housing, it's not economic development, it's taking care of the children of the county. With that being said, the only other thing I want to tell you about is I have a friendship with Michael White and Amy White, and I've had one since the day I met him. I met him so that you'll understand the day I interviewed him for this job. I had never known Michael White or met him prior to that occasion. But with that being said, my first duty comes to this city and will always come to this city. No friendship, no acquaintance, with the exception of my wife and my children, will ever come before my devotion to the city. And to allay Commissioner Tender's concerns, that's all I can tell you. I mean, I'm going to do the right thing. I think anybody that knows me knows I've always tried to do the right thing. That's right. The police were contacted every time I went to her house to pick her up. Every time. I did what I thought was necessary to protect her. I safe havened her to make sure she was safe and contacted the police. Or the police contacted me. I mean, on one occasion, the police actually called me and asked me to go pick her up. So anybody that wants to discuss this on a personal note, I'll be glad to sit off to the side and talk to you and explain to you my involvement with Miss White. But I can assure you, my sole goal was to make sure she was safe. To that end, I don't know what else to explain. I did find out today that this city has issued an order that Mike White is not allowed to step foot on any city property. I have a concern with that because any citizen that lives in our city and pays taxes has a right to use our parks and to use our facilities. Anybody that's indicted, whether it's a city manager or a citizen, is still innocent until proven guilty. And I'm asking this commission to instruct our acting police chief to remove that order because it is inappropriate. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Before I move to Commissioner Friend, I would just make a statement myself. It is not unusual, even in the corporate world, when someone is suspended or if they've been terminated, to not be allowed back in their office, to not have access to computers there, to not have access to records. That is a very customary event. In this particular event, I do not want to comment very much because of the fact, as I alluded to earlier, there is an ongoing active police investigation, and I do not want to do anything to cause a problem with that. But I will say this, Commissioner Barnes, Commissioner Friend, and Commissioner Russell 48 hours ago said that we did not need someone to be in charge of this city, that our department heads would function on their normal, everyday job descriptions. And I will tell you that our acting police chief's job description is to protect the citizens, and that includes the employees of this city. Chief Ricky Ramey's job as a department head, with no one to give him direction, he did speak to me about this, but I did not have the authority to tell him yes or no because this commission denied me that authority on Sunday. And so Commissioner Russell, I will tell you that right now, the safety of this city rests with Chief Ricky Ramey, and I stand behind his decision. So with that, I will move back to Commissioner Friend for his report.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just did want to let everyone know that I did meet with all the department heads, and I can assure you, we have a strong team. We have a good, solid team in Lynn Haven. They're smart, they're hardworking, and they're dedicated to their jobs day in and day out. So I also wanted to remind them that, as I did in the meetings, that I'm always available. I will obviously be stepping in more and more often. I'm available to Vicki, and she and I have had great talks, and we'll continue to have some more. So just want to let everyone know that we've got a solid team. We've got a really solid department heads and good, strong, hardworking individuals. The other thing I'd like to just bring up is Commissioner Shad met and talked with his family. He's not doing real well, so if you just remember him in your thoughts and prayers, and him and his family. And lastly, Mayor, I'd like to ask that we remove item 21 from the agenda today. And if we could just put it on the next regularly scheduled meeting, I'd appreciate that. And if you would entertain a motion, I'd make that in the form of a motion.
Is there a motion to delete item 21 from today's agenda and postpone that to next Tuesday's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Mr. Albritton, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor, and that's all I have.
Thank you. We will forego city manager's report today, which is item number 5. Moving on to item number 6 for the attorney's report. Mr. Albritton, do you have anything to report?
Nothing to report at this time, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we move to item number 7, the public commentary. And because of the number of people who are here today, and I don't know how many we have who wish to speak, but I would ask that I do not normally adhere very strictly to the 3-minute limit if people have prepared statements or need to talk to the commission. But today I would like to adhere to a strict 3-minute limit. And Adam Albritton, who is our legal counsel, since we don't have a clock, he will be timing that. So when he just lifts his hand up to let you know that your time is up, if you're not finished, would you please go ahead and wrap it up and be seated? And I would appreciate that. So at this time, is there anyone who would like to speak? Yes, sir, right over here. And if you'll approach the microphone, sir. The reason for the microphone is because our meetings by law have to be taped, audio, and all the rest, so we can't hear you unless you're at the microphone. Thank you, sir.
My name is Mitch Oakley. I live on Massachusetts Avenue here in town. Before I talk anything else, I want
Mr. Oakley, can you just adjust the mic a little bit? And I'm not sure it's even turned on. Tap it for me. Yep, it's on. Go
I
ahead.
would like to address you guys as a team. You now know what it feels like to be in an elite combat team. You just went through fire. Okay, with the hurricane and with this. And when it's one of the close ones that's wounded, it hurts. It hurts. So my thoughts are with you. My thoughts are with Mr. White and the police department. I would like to say one thing. I would hope that if this team can come together and put the kind of effort into vetting, because I deal with problems a lot with upper management. If we have looked really close, we probably would have seen evidentiary proof. This didn't just happen today or this week. We need to vet really hard. This is a really open position. It's under a microscope. It wields a lot of power, and it's going to get scrutinized. So I hope that you make this immune from any political input or anything else, just based on credential. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Walker?
Good afternoon. Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. In the last meeting, the emergency one, you mentioned the fact of Mr. Barnes missing out on some meetings. And originally, this hit me very hard because with the discussion that he slapping the citizens of this town and this commission in the face by denying them the privilege of living up to his oath. He was elected by the people to be present and represent them. He is on record as saying that he will not do that. That, I believe, is an insult. We pay him a certain salary per month, which is inclusive of medical for his family. That money comes up to almost close to $50,000 a year for a part-time employee. I do not believe we should stand for this. We should either ask Mr. Barnes to attend, which you did, and he refused. We should ask him to please attend the last meeting. Therefore, we wouldn't have to try and, I don't want to use the word impeach, but censor him or deny him the salary. We do that with any employee that does something wrong. I do believe this commission should represent the citizens better than Mr. Barnes is. Thank you.
Mr. Walker, your comments are duly noted, and I will say to you that our charter provides that if a commissioner misses 3 meetings in a row, that then the commission has the option of voting for that commission to not be there. The way that Mr. Barnes has scheduled this, whether intentionally or not, he has been excused at 1 or more. It's never been all 3 in a row. At this point, the 3 in a row will be to his last meeting, and so that's scheduled intentionally or not. There's so much dissension and division in the city right now that since we're at the point that he's about to go out of his seat, my preference is not to push further. I am going to ask whether or not he's excused today. I've neglected to do that earlier, but I will be doing that after we finish public commentary. I am truly disappointed in this. But as I'm saying, Lynnhaven has bigger fish to fry, if I may use that vernacular expression right now, and I would just like to not get bogged down in that. So that's my feeling on it. If the other commissioners have a different feeling, they can have that placed on the agenda for the next meeting. But I just want you to know that your comments are noted by me and understood by me. Is there someone else who would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Hello, good evening.
You're fine. We can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you. James Otto. I'm actually out of Clay County. Here helping out the citizenry, after this disaster y'all having to deal with right now. I found it a shame that the police here threw me in jail over a tag, my own tag on my own vehicle. But then a customer stole my dump trailer and they don't arrest him. That's grand theft. Hey, what's going on here? I come here to help y'all out. And then this all-season air conditioner guy, Wayne Beach, doesn't pay us for the work we do. And then turns around and steals my equipment from somebody else's property. And I hope y'all can look into that, because on top of it, you really shouldn't be pulling people over for headlights out or a taillight out. You're in a state of emergency. You want people to come here and help you so that if you have a tropical storm or something, more stuff's done. You know what I'm saying? I went to Harvey, I went to Sandy, So enough on that, but I hope you do look into that. I would appreciate it. I've been trying to deal with the state attorney on it. Another thing I like to comment on is the schools. I was in a junior high shooting in '83, and I appreciate Clay County, the school superintendent.
Sir, may I interrupt? Are you a resident at this time of Lynnhaven?
Yes.
You live in the
ma'am.
city? Okay, continue.
And I'm looking to buy property too, if they could just ease off, and support us. We're new residents here, But what I was saying with the schools is, I hope y'all aren't planning on taking the taxpayers' money and buying police cars, because we could really use some police dogs, some other things that are really going to help the schools. Police cars sitting out there really aren't. I think they had $1.9 million budgeted for police cars. I just don't see that. You phase them out every like 3 to 5 years. So just put it maybe in the budget that the older cars, they can change them a little bit. But, you know, honestly, we need the voters voted to put that money into school safety and to the RSOs. And not necessarily the sheriff's department. Some people are going off on certain officials, but, you know, we didn't vote for police officers, we voted for security for our schools. And I appreciate those superintendents for standing up and doing what they need to do. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Mr. Robitaille? If you need to speak in place, sir, that's fine.
Madam Mayor, Commissioner, I promised my wife I would be quiet. I can't do it. What happened Sunday and what's happening here this afternoon shakes me all the way back to Eleanor Bader's American government class in high school. I don't know about the rest of you, but I voted for Mayor Anderson to run the city. When we survived Lynch Kelly, especially Lynch, the people of this community were willing to have someone run the city that we recognize would support us. And what happened is that the majority of the people in this town voted for Mayor Anderson because they trusted her, because they wanted her to run this town. And for that authority, the authority of the people of this community, to be taken away by a couple little procedural votes is really disgusting. And it shakes me right to the bone that this happened in my community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robitaille. Is there anyone else who would like to speak today? I think that, have I overlooked anyone? I want to make sure. That brings us to the end of public commentary. I'm moving on to item number 8, which is the consent agenda. This would be a motion for approval of the minutes for the regularly scheduled February 26th meeting, as well as the minutes for the March 17th specially called meeting, which was 2 days ago. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any objection, any deletions, any additions to the minutes? Any from the public?
I do have a question, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it possible for me to take back my approval of Commissioner Barnes missing the last meeting?
No. I'm going to ask for a vote in a moment for today, though. Thank you. Is there any other comment? Mr. Albritton, would you please call the roll for approval of the consent agenda?
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. At this time, I would like to, I should have done this during the mayor's report, and I just neglected to do so, so I would ask at this time. I did not receive any information from the deputy city clerk. I asked her if she'd had a call from Mr. Barnes to say if he would be here or why he is not here, and she's not had any word from him. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to excuse Mr. Barnes' absence.
So move.
There's been a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? There is no second, and so the motion fails, and Mr. Barnes' attendance or lack of thereof will be not excused. So if we could make a note of that. And then we'll move on to old business. Item number 9, the second and final reading of ordinance number 1072, amending Chapter 42, Section 42-5 of the Code of Ordinances for the consumption of alcohol in the city of Lynn Haven Parks. I believe Mr. Albritton will be reading ordinance number 1072, and this is the second and final reading.
Ordinance number 1072, an ordinance of the city of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Chapter 42 of the Lynn Haven Code of Ordinances of Section 42.5 regarding alcoholic beverages, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, providing for inclusion into the code, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you. Is there, and this is an actionable item, correct?
Correct.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second? Final call for a second. There is no second, so therefore that motion would fail, and we would move move on to item number 10. Before I move on to item number 10, are there any comments from the public? I apologize. Yes, Mrs. Walker.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. This comment may be null and void, but if the public here were to look on the agenda item number 9, which we just discussed, ordinance 1072 regarding the consumption of alcohol, the resolution itself, the ordinance itself says consumption and sale. So those people reading this are not aware that it was also going to be sale of alcohol and consumption.
I think there was discussion of it. In fact, I know there was discussion of it when we did the first reading, and basically what that was applying to was the sale of alcohol at special events in the parks. That didn't mean there would be a sale of alcohol ongoing in the parks, but rather at a special event, and it was specified that every time there was a special event that it would be brought back before the commission before it was decided.
But it was just missing.
Sure. For obvious. Okay. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Was there anyone else who had a comment about this item?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Since the motion failed, sir, I'm not sure what the comment will, if you can keep it brief. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. James Otto, 2904 through 2910 Blanding Boulevard, Middleburg, Florida.
Sir, you just told me you were a resident of Lynn Haven when you spoke before.
Yeah, I'm a resident in a few different places. Is that okay?
You have to have a Lynn Haven address to speak here today, sir.
Really? For
Yes.
public comment?
So if you don't have a Lynn Haven address, I would ask you to be seated.
Wow.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Moving on to, is there anyone else who had a comment to make on the alcohol ordinance? The motion has failed. It will not go forward, but if you have a comment you'd like to make, you're welcome to do that. I would ask you to stay in order in the meeting, please. Item number 10 is the second and final reading of ordinance number 1073, prohibiting smoking and vaping in public parks. Mr. Albritton.
Ordinance number 1073, an ordinance of the city of Lynn Haven, Florida, related to electronic cigarettes, prohibiting the use of electronic cigarettes at all locations on city property where smoking is presently prohibited, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing an immediately effective date.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
And there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board? If you don't mind, I would like to clarify, and Mr. Albritton, please feel free to add on if you think that I leave something out. But this ordinance cannot override what the Florida ordinances already say about smoking in parks. It's just saying that any place in our city where smoking is prohibited, that this ordinance would say that vaping is also prohibited. So
That is correct. State law controls the prohibition of smoking in most situations, and this essentially says that we will piggyback off state law.
okay, are there any comments from the public or objections that anybody would like to voice? Mr. Albritton, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so the motion stands approved. We move to item number 11, which is now new business. This is resolution number 2019-03-279, supporting the Hurricane Michael federal tax relief. This would normally be a city manager item, but I would ask Mr. Albritton if he would please read the resolution today.
Resolution number 2019-03-279, a resolution of the Lynn Haven City Commissioners urging the United States Congress to pass tax relief for individuals and employers suffering from Hurricane Michael.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the public? Mr. Albritton, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so it stands approved. Item number 12, resolution number 2019-03-280, approving the removal of debris from private properties and right-of-ways in the city of Lynn Haven. Again, I'll defer to you, Mr. Albritton, if you would please read the resolution.
Resolution number 2019-03-280, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, making appropriate findings and authorizations for certain private property debris removal, providing for conflict, severability, and an immediately effective date.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board or questions for Mr. Albritton?
Yes, Mayor.
Please go ahead, Commissioner Tender.
I just wanted to ask, is this about the application that we filed a while back so that we could remove property from, or debris from private property? Is this the same issue?
Commissioner Tender, this issue was brought up at our last regular meeting. The difference is we did not have the prepared resolution. This pertains to the private property debris removal, yes, and as part of preparing that process between the city, FEMA, and the residents, FEMA has advised that a resolution would be necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? Any questions or discussion from the public? Mr. Albritton, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, the motion stands approved. Moving to item number 13, this is resolution number 2019-03-281 to approve the filing of the FEMA Public Assistance application and granting the mayor or her designee the authorization to execute all documents for the city of Lynn Haven. Would you please read that resolution, Mr. Albritton?
Resolution number 2019-03-281, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven authorizing the execution of documents on behalf of the City of Lynn Haven City Commission.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions from this commission about this resolution? Are there any questions or comments from the audience? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I don't want to ask who your designee is going to be, but that's your choice. But normally in the procedure, it's usually been the city manager.
Well, it says or. I can do it. Myself or my designee.
Okay.
Either or.
Thank you. I just, a related subject dealing, we have a city manager in charge of your little, the program of allotting $1,000 to the citizens. Now with the city manager off of that, are we going to get a person, maybe a citizen?
That would be a different item than what we're talking about right now, but we will discuss it at a later time. Thank you, sir. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, Mr. Albritton, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, the resolution stands approved. Item number 14 is a first reading. It will require no action by the board today. It's the reading of ordinance number 1074. It is requesting a small-scale future land use map amendment from Ronald Johnson. Are you ready with that one? Thank you.
Ordinance number 1074, an ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes, the land use change from mixed use to commercial for an approximate 1.2 acres of property located on the corner of West 13th Street and Florida Avenue. Parcel number 10101-000-000, 10102-000-000, and 10103-000-000 in the city of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
This is a first reading, and our city planner, Amanda Richard, is not with us today. She is on vacation, but she will be back for the next meeting. We'll be doing the second reading and can give a more detailed explanation. If you should have questions about this that you would like to talk with her before the meeting, I'm sure that she can make that time available for you. Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 15. This is the final plat approval for the Parkview Townhome subdivision, which is located on 17th Street across from Kane Griffin Park. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions from the board about this, about the final plat approval? There appear to be none. Are there any from the audience? There appear to be none. Mr. Albritton, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner, excuse me? Yes, thank you. Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so it does stand approved, and I just wanted to add that I'm personally quite happy about this. This is some new housing coming into Lynn Haven, which we so desperately need, so we're very happy about that. Item number 16 is the approval of the development order for the improvement and expansion of the UPS sorting facility due to Hurricane Michael located on Minnesota Avenue. And this is a quasi-judicial public hearing which would require the swearing in of anybody who's here who has information on this. So I'll pass to you, Mr. Albritton.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd first ask if the board has had any ex parte communication.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
And I've had none.
Next, I would ask that all those that plan to present testimony in this matter, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, is there a motion for approval of the development order?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions from anyone on the board that you would want to hear information from these representatives on this item? There appear to be none. Are there any from the audience? There appear to be none. Mr. Albritton, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, stands approved. Item number 17, approval of the development order to construct a Tire Kingdom at the intersection of Highway 77 and Peachtree Avenue. Again, this is a quasi-judicial public hearing, so I'll defer to our attorney, Mr. Albritton.
I would ask the commission for disclosure of any ex parte communication.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
And I've had none.
All those present wishing to give or provide testimony, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you so much. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second, and there is a second, I'm sorry, Commissioner Friend. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or any questions for those who are present for information regarding this item?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, is this property only going to be, I understand what corner it's on, is it just simply on that corner where the long building is there, I assume is getting tore down or whatever, or is it going further back on Peachtree?
And Mr. Jim Slanina of Panhandle Engineering is coming forward to answer that question. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Jim Slonina. I live in Lynn Haven. My business is in Lynn Haven, and this project's in Lynn Haven. The property is only associated with the white building and no further property. I'd also like to mention that there's other properties coming in. The redevelopment of the JR's Rib Shack site to commercial based on y'all giving some favorable consideration to the code to allow them to rebuild. So I appreciate all of it. Thank you.
And we appreciate all that you're doing to try to help rebuild Lynn Haven. Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Albritton, would you, I didn't give opportunity for public input. Are there any questions from the public or any concerns from the public? There appear to be none. Mr. Albritton, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, it stands approved. Item number 18 is discussion and approval to charge admission into the splash parks and establish a rental rate for reserving space for birthday parties held at the city's splash parks. And this was going to be a city manager's report. I do know that I had some discussions with Mr. White about the splash parks, and I may ask David Horton to help me out a little bit here. He's our community services director. But the idea, and many of you may have had the same discussion with him, I don't know, but the discussion that he had with me was that the splash parks would remain free admission for Lynn Haven residents' children, and they would be given some kind of a band based on the parent's driver's license, that kind of thing. And the reason for that is because of the popularity of the splash parks and because of the popularity of our city. We've had a large number of children coming from the beach, coming from the unincorporated areas and from other cities. And so Mr. White was thinking, and I do agree with him, that the upkeep, the number of personnel we have at the parks, what we're trying to do to provide for our children here in the city, we certainly welcome people from other areas, but we think that they should be helping us to pay for the upkeep as well. So he was thinking of a nominal fee when I last spoke with him of $3 for the children to enter if they weren't from the city of Lynn Haven. And I believe the charge for a birthday party was $150. So Mr. Horton, if you have anything to add to that, or if I said something incorrectly, would you please correct me on that?
No, that's about what he told me and stuff.
Okay. So I would ask if there is a motion about this, or if the commission would like to have more time to think about this. I will remind you that we have one splash park already open, and we have another one that's imminently going to open in the next couple of weeks. And so if you would let me know your pleasure, if you'd like to table this with more time to think about it, or if you'd like to make a motion for approval for basically what I just said. I was talking about a $3 admission for those who don't live here, a free admission for those who do, and a $150 charge for the use of the, having that park for a birthday party. And I think that was going to include some refreshments and that kind of thing. So I leave it to you, gentlemen and ladies.
Mayor, can I just say something?
Sure, that's what I want.
I spoke with Mr. White also about this project a couple weeks ago, and what he explained to me is it would include a picnic table outside of the splash park area for the party to be held. It would include refreshments. And however, and this is the part I was concerned about, the splash pad will not be closed down to the public. What it's buying them for $150 is the use of the splash pad and a picnic table for their party, because I was concerned that he was going to close it down. Am I correct, or was somebody told something different?
Commissioner, Mr. Horton, did you have a comment? Then I'll come back to Commissioner Russell.
Yes, we would have to close it if it goes over limited number of people that are down there. So if a party comes up with 25, that means that they would have the park, because there's only 25 kids can go in there one time. So that means we would have to close off to just that party.
And what would be the time limit on that, Mr. Horton?
We would set an hour.
You said an hour for them to use it for an hour exclusively. Okay. Commissioner Russell, you wanted to say something?
Mayor, if I'm in, I need to direct my question to you, but I also believe, if I'm not correct, that the $150 gives the first 10 kids a hot dog, a drink, and something else, right? I believe. I don't think it's just a rental for the tables, if I can be corrected.
It'd be a hot dog, a drink, and a slushie or a drink.
And
they get the two. If nobody's been down there, we've redone that whole thing, and now just underneath the pavilion, so we could keep the concession stand running and going. We've only put 2 tables under there, and that's the 2 tables they would get. There's 6 tables on the other side, so the other side would still be usable, but the 2 tables would be designated for a party.
And I want to also commend your department on how beautiful that looks out there. I mean, everything is really looking pretty, and people are very happy about it. I would defer to what my legal counsel here has suggested, and I think it's a really good idea, since Mr. White, is obviously not here to be able to give all the details that he had discussed, and each of us seems to have a pretty similar understanding, but there are some variances. I would suggest that we have a motion to table this until the next meeting, and then Mr. Horton, if you could get with Ms. Gaynor and you guys could come up with a list of the exact proposal, and then just have it in a concise form that we can just vote yes or no, that would be great.
Yes, because we got 5 people wanting to do it already.
Yes, there we go. So will a week cause you too much trouble? No. Okay, very good. Is there a motion to table this until the next commission meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Whoa. One motion.
Yeah. Take your pick.
Let's try it again.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion? Okay, Mrs. Tender, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Commissioner Tender, I'm sorry.
I just have to say this. This issue with the rental of the park, I don't have any problems at all about renting the splash pad or picnic table or whatever. But I still go back to last year. I'm very concerned when we have children riding their bikes down to the park. How are they to know that they can't go in for an hour, after they've gone down there? It concerns me that we're leaving some local children out, and they're not going to know until the last minute, just like any parent that drives 5 kids down there, and they go, oh, well, we're closed for an hour. I'm just concerned about that part of it.
And so I think that's a concern that maybe Mr. Horton can weave into what he's going to present to us, and then we can nail out the details at the next meeting.
Well, what we're going to do is you got to rent it like 2 weeks in advance, so we can post it for a solid week, so everybody knows, say, next Saturday from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, we have birthday parties. So you take your risk of coming.
So you'll make your best effort at informing everyone.
Right. It'll go back out on our social medias and everything. We will have it. We putting the board up down there just to tell everybody we got a birthday party at this time. And like I say, we're going to do it. We're 2 weeks out. You're going to give us 2 week notice. So we can let people know for 2 weeks.
Okay,
and we'll
so
put it out there.
we've had a motion and a second that we'll table this, and then we can iron out all of the details at the next meeting. And of course, that gives a week for commissioners to contact Ms. Gaynor and yourself and give input, and I'm sure we'll have something we can come to agreement on by next week. So is there, I'm sorry, Commissioner Friend, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to use the opportunity, since we're all together, just for sake of discussion. I did talk to Mr. Hortner about it when we were going over, when I was talking with all the department heads, but just want to put this out there. You know, I certainly want to give a break to the Lynn Haven residents, but just for sake of discussion, maybe we should entertain charging a small fee to everyone. My concern simply is managing the process. So if we just, did a flat fee, small fee to everyone, I think that offset some of the expense of the splash pads. It would help in that, and also help with managing the process. And then perhaps we could even do, we could give a break if you buy a pass. So you get so many visits, but you get a couple of visits for free or something like that. Just to cut down on managing the whole process. Kids showing up with $1 or $2 here or there, or parents or whatever. I think if you just had a pass and everyone just pays a small fee across the board, it's just something that we should consider perhaps.
And again, we can iron that out at the next meeting. I would, since we're all together and it's the only time we can ever talk, I just want to put my input in before we get there, though, is I would be adamantly opposed to Lynn Haven children having to pay, because in the beginning we said they would not have to pay.
Okay.
And we did not anticipate having the hundreds of children coming from other areas, and so that's what we were trying to look at. So I just wanted to put that out there, that would be my thought in advance. So.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, please. I guess we've tabled it, but we're gonna have a discussion anyway, so let's continue. We can only talk in public, so here we go.
Yeah, I completely concur with you. I'm against charging Lynn Haven citizens. But at the same token, if we consider this, I would like us to also consider maybe not implementing this thing for 6 or 7 months, because I know the other cities are not completely up. So there are kids that are out there that are displaced and they're hurting, that are going to enjoy this park, and they may not come if they can't afford it.
Well put. Okay, so we'll have lots of discussion at the next meeting of this, and we've had a motion and a second to table it. Now we just need a vote. Mr. Albritton?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. Moving on to item number 19. This is the approval of resolution number 2019-03-282 to move forward to secure bonds to pay for Hurricane Michael's cleanup cost and to rebuild the city. This approval will give the city manager authority to move forward and bring bonds back to the commission for approval. The city manager was going to give this report, but I will tell you that Jay Moody has been our financial consultant from almost day one after the storm. He's done an exceptional job in taking care of the city, and I would like to ask him at this moment, before we do a motion or a second on this approval of the resolution. Well, first of all, I'll have Mr. Albritton read the resolution, and then I'm going to ask Jay Moody if he'll come forward, and he's going to give a very concise, very understandable layman's term description of what we're proposing to do, and then we'll get input after that. So, Mr. Albritton, if you would read the resolution.
Resolution number 2019-03-282, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, with respect to reimbursement of certain costs and expenditures relating to capital improvements and hurricane recovery costs within the city, and authorizing the negotiation of agreements regarding a proposed financing or financings.
Thank you. And Mr. Moody, if you'd come forward, and because the commission is aware, if you would feel more comfortable to turn the microphone so that you can address the people, you're very welcome to do that. It's very awkward to look over your shoulder trying to do it.
I appreciate that. Everybody's going to look at me. Anyway, my name is Jay Moody. Not only have I been advising city manager and the board when possible, but I'm also Jay Moody 101 Rubicage. I've lived in Lynn Haven since 1997 and in Bay County basically my whole life. As you know, if you've been to other commission meetings, we earlier talked about a $10 million revolving line of credit to help with the debris bills, which are very large. The debris bills are basically your annual budget, which is, nobody asked for that. It's just what it is. I'm sure you've all read in the paper that all municipalities are dealing with that. But not only do we have debris bills, you've got to build your city back. You know, we've got to get the debris out of the way, which is horrible, and it's really frustrating because it's a lot of money, but that just gets you back to par. Now you've got to build your city hall. You've got to build your parks back, the things that made us want to move to Lynn Haven when we had children. And anyway, the bonds, basically, we went out and talked to the bank, and we talked about the $10 million line of credit. And after talking with them and talking with some bond underwriters that they brought to us, the best option looked to be some kind of a mix. And the rates were much more favorable for bonds. You have room in your budget to have additional debt. There's consideration given to the debt that you already have. For right now, the one thing that I'll say, when you look at this, your blood pressure goes up anytime your board's talking about taking out bonds. However, today means nothing other than you will allow your city manager to discuss this and come up with a plan. That plan will have to come back to this room or to wherever the commission meeting is happening and be presented and approved, so you're going to get that opportunity. I'll just say that in all of working with Tetra Tech, who is your FEMA financial consultant, working with FEMA, unfortunately in the state of Florida, you have to pay for all these things before you get it back. And if it were just we incurred it and we got the money and some help and some advances from FEMA, which is allowed in other states, that'd be great. But you have to pay for these bills first, then you submit it to FEMA, then it goes through Florida, and Florida is actually who finally pays you. And so to keep the city solvent and in good financial shape, you need to have your cash on hand, and the city's really gone as far as they can do with their own cash. No one expects this kind of a storm that's going to stress you this much. Anyway, these bonds, when you first see bonds, you think, oh, we're going to be paying for these things for years. Actually, both of the bonds that have just been bannered around, there's been no negotiations or anything, but there'll be some taxable and tax exempt aspects of it. Part of that reason is taxable bonds can be called faster. So if we are successful in all of our FEMA filings, then you can retire those bonds in maybe 2 years. If you are going to retire the ones that are tax exempt, you usually do have to have a 5-year call, because you're not going to have many investors interested in a bond that's going to be called 2 years later. So you will have the ability to retire a lot of this debt. But one thing should be clear: we're not going to leave this storm without any debt. We are either going to be responsible for half of 10% or half of 25%. If this storm continues to increase in price, we don't all hope that, but we hope that eventually the federal government will move to a 90-10 cost share, 90% federal, 10% state and local, of which we'll split. But even under that scenario, these are big, big bills, so we're going to end up with some residual debt. And so that's one thing that makes bonds more attractive. You can stretch out the repayment terms, you can keep your cash flow flowing, and it's not something you're going to be able to handle in just 2 years. It's a big, big expense. And so that's why we started looking at these with the city manager and discussing with them, and that's why we're bringing it to you today, is to just get approval to go forward and continue to discuss so that we can bring back the final plan to the people and to the commission.
I appreciate that very much, Mr. Moody. Thank you for giving us that report. At this time, I would ask Mr. Albritton if he would please read the resolution concerning moving forward in securing the bonds.
Resolution 2019-03-282, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, with respect to reimbursement of certain costs and expenditures relating to capital improvements and hurricane recovery costs within the city, and authorizing the negotiation of agreements regarding the proposed financing or financings.
Thank you. And once again, this approval is to give the city manager authority to move forward and bring the bonds back to the commission for approval, and also to give the public time for more input, more questions. This is not an approval of just moving forward with this. I would also say that next Tuesday, the 26th, I do have a meeting in Tallahassee with Director Moskowitz, who is the head of Florida Emergency Management. We'll be in Senator Gaynor's office, and all the mayors from all the cities will be there. We'll be discussing more about the 90-10 share that Jay Moody was just talking about, that when Florida gets to a certain amount of expense, that instead of us being reimbursed at a 75% rate, it would be a 90% rate. And so I'll be bringing, hopefully, back a good report from that meeting at our next commission meeting. I'll be flying back from Tallahassee quickly, not flying in an airplane, but yeah, okay. So at this time, is there a motion for approval from the commission on item number 19?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions from the board about this? Are there any questions from the public? Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I took a look at the debt service. Now, debt service is a little different than bonds and everything like that. I don't know if anybody realizes, our debt service went from last year to this year from 8% to 9%, okay? That's an increase, which shows that we're going more in debt, which is normal. And I understand where you're looking at. But in this debt, in our budgets, there are some things that are not debts, they're loans. They have to be cranked into this. Since I've been here, I have not seen one of our bonds paid off. That's a long time. It's going to be a long time to pay this off, too. Because FEMA seems it's holding out against Lynn Haven. Mexico Beach got their money back, and the city got the money.
And actually, there's an explanation for that that I'll be bringing up for you.
I'm trying to make a point. But it looks like, and it looks like we're going to keeping part of the $50 million line of credit along with the bonds, and this is an increase in debt.
The $50 million line of credit is Bay County, sir. It's not us.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, it's Bay County. I thought Mr. White put in for $50 million. Oh, okay. I thank you for that. I misconceived that. It's just that I'm glad they're going to bring it back to you with all the discussion and everything like that, and we'll get more information as how much, how long, and what the percentage is. But I just wanted to point out that our debt is increasing.
And as we are well aware, and I know everybody in the room is, if you've been reading the paper, as Jay Moody said, our potential debt is more than our city budget is at the present time. It is a frightening thing, but FEMA is going to be reimbursed, and we're hoping, for the best as far as the amounts. What I will say to you before we vote is that you're welcome at all of our commission meetings. We will be transparent. We will take your input. We will take your opinions, and we have a great financial consultant, and Lynn Haven's going to move forward, so have no fear. All as well. Is there another question or comment from the board? Mr. Albrecht, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. Stands approved. Item number 19 is the discussion and approval to purchase a John Deere 50G excavator for the city's cleanup efforts, and the city manager had the report on that. Is there anyone else from the staff who had a report to the commission for that today? Could I ask for a motion that we table this until we have someone with the report? And then there's been a motion.
Second.
And a second. So we will table item number 20 until the next meeting for more information. We have deleted item number 21 at Commissioner Friend's request. Item number 22, this is a discussion and possible action regarding the First Amendment to the loan agreement. Do we have a report on this item?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, you may. And talk really right here.
Mayor, under the direction of the city manager, I reached out to our bond counsel, Mark Mushton, regarding the use of the half-cent infrastructure tax to determine if there are any other means and methodologies. Currently, our loan agreement states that quote, the construction of various roads and adjacent infrastructure projects. So obviously the use of the funding related to that is very limited. In talking to bond counsel and the city manager, bond counsel believes that with the agreement of the underlying financier, Hancock Bank, that can be expanded to give the city possible other avenues to make expenditures. This particular document states, if it were to be agreed upon, the definition of 2018 project contained in the loan agreement is hereby amended to be, quote, such capital improvements constituting infrastructure as established by resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, end quote. So if this commission would like to expand the definition of what the half-cent infrastructure surtax is currently in existence in the city of Lynn Haven, to apply it to other infrastructure items other than various roads and adjacent infrastructure projects. This commission would need to vote to approve this, and it would be brought to Hancock Whitney Bank thereafter for their hopeful agreement.
What is the range of expansion from roadways and adjacent infrastructure? What will be the expansion? What else could it be used for?
One of the things that the city manager and bond council and I discussed would be for buildings, vertical buildings. The city of Lynn Haven obviously was decimated. The reconstruction of city buildings, vertical buildings, and not only those directly related to City Hall, but those ancillary buildings. In between now and any possible reimbursement or insurance funds, the city obviously needs to be able to have at least access to other funds, and that was one idea that is obviously being presented today.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from the board regarding item number 22?
Yes, Mayor. This is what you're saying, this is a loan we already have. It's supposed to be used for roads, and they're willing to, or we're going to ask them if they would expand it to buildings and such. Would this loan be paid off with the FEMA money as we receive that? Or
Commissioner Tender, if I could step into that for just a second. I have grave reservations about number 22. We've had many discussions, even in the weeks following the storm, when I was basically functioning and making financial decisions. I have grave reservations about the half-cent sales tax myself, because it was put forth as a resolution to the county with each city getting a percentage for paving and infrastructure. I also realize that at this point in time that we are looking at every avenue of using money that's available to us to be able, I'm not sure how much the public is, versed in this. It's just a matter of looking at it every day. It's just a matter of the understanding of it. We will be reimbursed and we will be able to pay back, but we don't know the schedule of that, and we have to have a certain amount of cash on hand to be able to run the city, to be able to pay the invoices, etc. With that said, I still have some hesitation. That does not mean I'm right because I have the hesitation, but I have some hesitation at this point. I don't want to hold it up if the rest of the commission feels positive about it. But I still am really wanting to stick with roads right now and the adjacent infrastructure, and kind of give it a little more time and wait on what the insurance is going to pay us back for the buildings that were destroyed, that kind of thing. At the same time, again, our financial consultant is a really good one, and we've had some really good discussions, but I personally would like a little more time on this one, but I'm willing to listen to the rest of the commission, what you might have to say, as well as to the public.
Mayor?
Please go ahead.
If I could add this. Since we've given permission to go ahead and investigate the bonds and things, and it's my understanding that once we apply for those bonds, it'll be about 45 days. Is that correct?
Approximately, that's right.
Then I agree with you. I think we should wait and use the bond money rather than go further in debt, waiting for insurance money, because the bonds will certainly take care of that.
And we don't have to make a decision today. We can delay this. We've delayed a couple of items. This has been a very difficult week. We don't have to make any big decisions about this today. 7 days is probably not going to greatly impact this. It would give time for more investigation. Commissioner Friend, do you have a thought about it?
No, ma'am, I think I would concur that I'd be in favor of putting it off till the next meeting.
Commissioner Russell?
Mayor, I agree.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public who has a comment on this? I think all the commissioners have agreed that we'd like to delay this for a week, which gives everybody time to think about it, and each of you time to do some homework as well and have questions when we come back. Okay. Is there a motion to table this item until the next meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Mr. Albrecht, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so we're to item number 23. I would like to congratulate the commission for a very cordial and very effective meeting. I would like to thank all the public for being here today and for having your input and for your patience in the situation in which we find ourselves. And I think once again that Lynn Haven has proved that we are the best city in the whole world. So the meeting is now adjourned.